Hi again, everyone. Gary Digital Williams here on Boxing Along the Beltway, our Beltway boxing news and notes for this week. And a lot of things we're starting to heat up now as we get closer to the summer, and we are starting to get some really good news coming in, some big news, and we have a lot to talk about this week. We have, of course, the recaps of last week's action. A lot of action this past weekend, most of it happening in Brooklyn, New York. In fact, all of it happening in Brooklyn, New York, really. And then we'll preview a big bout this weekend for one of our Beltway boxers. We'll give you the entire May schedule because we have a lot of things that have been added to the May schedule. So we'll run that down for you, as well as a possible rematch for the big bout that took place a couple weeks ago. There could be a rematch on that one. And we have yet another tribute to a fallen professional wrestler. I will pull on my wrestling hat once again because we did have a fallen wrestler, and I do want to talk about him a little bit. Beltway Boxing News and Notes brought to you by Real-Time Pain Relief. From boxers to ballerinas, for shoulder pain and muscle strain and everything in between, Boxing Along the Beltway recommends Real-Time Pain Relief, the natural, plant-based, safe, fast, and effective ointment. You go to freepainoffer.com, buy $10 worth of Real-Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real-Time Pain Relief. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And don't forget, you go to deborahspears.com for the great jewelry that she has on sale there. Of course, your first payment is 20% off, and free shipping is available as well. You go to Deborah, that's DEBRA Spears.com. Don't forget to download this podcast on the Boxing on the Beltway Google app for Android. You go to Android and you can download this app for free. And also, if you're an iOS subscriber, you can subscribe to the Boxing on the Beltway pages on Spreaker.com and iHeartRadio.com. And don't forget, you can follow me on Twitter at Digital25. Great things going on this past weekend. We had a couple of great bouts for Beltway boxers this past week. One of the bouts took place on this past Thursday, April the 19th, in San Juan, Puerto Rico. And that was with Lamont Roach Jr. out of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and former world title contender Orlando El Fenómeno Cruz out of San Juan. They battled to a 10-round split decision draw on a national televised ESPN2 card from the Coliseo Jose Miguel Aguilo in San Juan, Puerto Rico. The bout was They found out what the title was for. It was for a vacant international super featherweight title, which remains vacant. Now, in this bout, Roach really got off to a really slow start, slower than usual than he usually does, and allowed Cruz to counterpunch effectively. But Roach, I thought, landed more quality shots than Cruz in the bout. In the last 3 rounds, Roach did step up his attack, and it was a key moment in the 9th round. And this is where the bout hinged on. And the referee in this contest, Luis Pabon, overall did an awful job. He was terrible in this bout. And in the 9th round, Roach seemed to drop Cruz with a left hook, but Pabon called it a slip, and he did not call the knockdown. Now, Roach had received credit for that knockdown, he would have won a majority of the decision. One judge did score the bout for Roach, 97-93. Another judge saw it for Cruz, 96-94. And actually, the third judge would have probably one judge would have scored as a draw. The other person would have had it for Roach. And so it would have been a majority decision. And the third judge saw the draw 95-95. Cruz got the win on one card, 96-94. But suffice it to say, good performance for Roach. Could have been better, but he did get a draw out of the deal. And I think they should rematch that and bring that here to our area. That'd be nice to see. Now that Roach fought in Cruz's hometown, I say we, but I'm all for the Beltway boxers. But now that Roach has fought in Cruz's hometown, let's bring it back here to Maryland and see what happens here. Roach had won about in the MGM National Harbor on television. So let's see if we can do that again. But for now, Roach is undefeated, 16-0-1, 6 KOs. Cruz is now 25-6-2, 13 KOs. So we'll see what happens there. But a tough draw for Lamont Roach Jr. Meanwhile, at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, we had a great night. Beltway Boxing had a tremendous night. Beltway Boxing was indeed in the house at the Barclays Center. No question about that. We'll explain how this came about. But the big news, of course, was the second world title now for Baltimore, Maryland, Gervonta Tank Davis. He won the WBA Super Featherweight Championship, defeating former WBA Featherweight champion Jesus Cuellar by a third-round knockout. He was highly impressive. He was incredible in this contest. He was vintage. I hate to say it because he's only 23 years old, but it was vintage Gervonta Tank Davis. No question about that. He got going early in the bout. He landed crushing shots to the head and body. In the second round, Davis sent a solid straight left hand to Cuellar's liver, dropped into the canvas. Beautiful body shot. And then in the third round, Davis seemed to be stunned by a clash of heads, but he shook it off and went back to work. He eventually landed another wicked body shot to drop Cuellar for the second time. And then moments later, Davis landed a beautiful combination that ended with a left uppercut, felled Cuellar again. Referee Benji Esteves had seen enough. He stopped the contest at 2:45 of the third round. And I guess a lot of us were wrong, including myself, about whether or not Davis should stay in town and stay with his group. But he still had Kenny Ellis and Calvin Ford that was still in his corner. No question about that. So he hasn't totally left them, hasn't broken any ties with him, which is wonderful. But I tell you, you got to hand it to his new trainer for this one, Kevin Cunningham. Outstanding work. I mean, you just saw that Gervonta Davis was more focused. He went to work early. Cuellar didn't have a chance in this bout. He was fantastic. So again, Davis back on the top in the echelon, top part of boxing in this area, in the country and around the world, with a big win, third round TKO over Jesus Cuellar. Davis is now 20-0, 19 KOs, while Cuellar falls to 28-3, 21 KOs. So congratulations to Gervonta Davis, now a two-time world champion. He's now the WBA Super Featherweight champion. On the undercard, big night for the Beltway. Capitol Heights, Maryland super lightweight Antoine Russell. He remained perfect with a third-round stoppage of Andrew Rogers of Elkhart, Indiana. Russell hammered Rogers for the entire bout. Russell did land a low blow late in the second round that momentarily stopped the bout, but Russell continued the battering until referee Arthur McCanty Jr. stopped the contest at 1:20 of the third round. Russell, 5-0, 5 KOs, is the first boxer to knock out Rogers, who falls to 4-3-1, 2 KOs. Also, DC welterweight Shingaskan Tazabai. He remained undefeated with a 4-round unanimous decision over Isaac Freeman of Los Angeles, California. Now, Tazabai floored Freeman with a right hand late in the first round, and then he got cut in the second round over the right eye, I should say. But he maintained complete control of the bout. He won a shutout on two of the cards, 40-35. The other judge scored about 39-36. Tazabai now 6-0, 2 KOs, while Freeman falls to 3-7-1 with 3 KOs. Now, the only Beltway loss on this card went to Silver Spring, Maryland, Justin the Voodoo Savi, who lost by third-round stoppage. He ended up fighting, he was supposed to fight Shingaskan Tazabai, but they changed it around. And Savi ended up fighting Fabian Maidana, who was the brother of former world champion Marcos Maidana. And he lost that bout by third-round stoppage. Savi is 31-16-2, 21 KOs. And Maidana is now remains undefeated, 15-0, 11 KOs. And if that wasn't enough, during the Showtime telecast Saturday night, both WBC featherweight champion Gary Russell Jr. and the unified 154-pound champion Jared Hurd were both interviewed by Brian Custer during the Showtime telecast. And we'll have some news about both these guys in just a little bit. Meanwhile, in another card in Brooklyn on that Saturday over at the King's Theater, Luther Lights Out Smith, the cruiserweight out of Bowie, Maryland, he lost a 6-round split decision to Kennedy Katende of New York City by way of Rubaga, Uganda. There was no details on the bout. We didn't get anything, but Smith won one of those cards by 58-56, but Katende won the other two cards by that very same 58-56 score. Smith is now 10-3, 9 KO, just fought early in the month, and he won. But he's now 10-3, 9 KOs, and Katende remains undefeated. He's 4-0, 1 KO. So that was the recap from this past week. Again, overall, a very successful weekend for Beltway boxers. We had that one draw. We had that one loss by Smith. But other than that, And Savi, of course, lost as well. So I guess we had 2 losses, but everybody else did very, very well this past weekend. Now we move to this weekend, where we have a solid 10-round encounter coming up, and a big one, I think, for Laurel, Maryland super middleweight Damon, the best at it, Nicholson, who's taking on Jesse Hardwork Hart of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and a bout that is now going to be for the vacant NABF Super Middleweight Championship. So this is a big bout for Damon Nicholson. The bout will be held this coming Saturday, April 28th, and it'll be originating from the Liquoris Center on the campus of Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It'll be televised live by ESPN. It'll be the co-feature on that telecast. Nicholson, as we said, 18-2-1 with 17 KOs. He scored a bounce-back second-round TKO over Josue Abando on August 25th in Miami, Oklahoma. And this will be Nicholson's first 10-round encounter. Now, Hart looks to bounce back from suffering his first pro loss. He lost a first-round TKO over Thomas Awembono. That was on February 3rd in Corpus Christi, Texas. So we'll see what happens there. Actually, I take it back. He defeated Thomas Awembono on February 3rd in Corpus Christi, Texas, but he lost in the world title bout prior to that. But he came back and beat Awembono. So he's 23-1, 19 KOs. So big bout for Damon Nicholson. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in that contest and whether or not. And I tell you, over the past week, Nicholson has been very confident in defeating and trying to defeat Jesse Hardy, someone that he said that he has wanted for quite some time. So we will see how that happens. So that's, once again, this coming Saturday, April 28th on ESPN from the Liquoris Center in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Now, before we get to the May schedule, we got another big story that just came down the pike this past week. And I find it interesting and kind of weird in a way. This comes from BoxingScene.com and their reporter Rick Reno, who is saying that the Championship Committee of the World Boxing Association has ordered a rematch between ununified world champion Jarrett Hurd and Erislandy Lara. Now, both sides were advised that the deal must be reached in 30 days or a purse bid would be scheduled. As we know by now, Hurd defeated Lara by a 12-round split decision on April 7th back at the Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, the Hurd camp has yet to respond to this order. We have not heard anything from the Hurd camp on this. This just came over the boxing news yesterday as we recorded this on Wednesday. But right now, however, the plan for Hurd, as well as for Showtime Championship Boxing, is for Hurd to take on WBC junior middleweight champion Jermell Charlo in a unification bout sometime in the fall. That's provided, of course, that Charlo gets past former world champion Austin Trout on June 9th in Los Angeles. Hurd knocked out Trout in the 10th round this past October in Brooklyn, New York. Now, Reno is saying, also the reporter Rick Reno is saying that a unification bout between Hurd and Charlo would take precedence over a rematch order. But however, Jarrett Hurd would have to submit an exception to the WBA to get approved. So we'll see what happens. So I talked to Ernesto Rodriguez in the camp over at for Jarrett Hurd to see what they're going to do about this. And again, the WBA never explained so far. I have not explained why they want a rematch between the two. I think it's ridiculous. Be entertaining, no question about it. But I really think, and I think a lot of people have agreed with this, that a rematch with Erislandy Lara would be a lot easier for Hurd than this last bout. I think he definitely figured him out, and I think Lara's in for a lot of punishment if they do a rematch the second time around. But we'll have to wait and see what happens there. So that's the big news for this week. Now let's take a look at the May schedule. And this May schedule is very interesting. It's grown considerably. We've talked about some of the bouts, some of the cards and bouts that have taken place this week, but there are not a lot of additions to this. And it turned out to be a pretty nice May schedule. Okay, so here we go. Let's start with Friday, May 4th. Of course, we'll have the 2018 Regional Golden Gloves at Rosecroft Raceway in Fort Washington, Maryland. There'll be the novice and open team from D.C., Maryland, Delaware, battling the squad from Virginia, North Carolina. Now, the Virginia, North Carolina Golden Gloves. The first round took place this past Saturday, April 21st, at the ABC Sports Complex in Springfield, Virginia. But the finals will be held in Norfolk, Virginia this coming Saturday, Friday and Saturday, 27th and 28th in Norfolk, Virginia. And the winners of that will go to the Regional Golden Gloves. Now, we're hoping to have some semblance of coverage for that here on the Boxing on Beltway Google app for Android. I don't know it will be a live telecast, broadcast, and here's why. I have some family issues I have to deal with that date, and I'll be arriving to the Golden Gloves a little bit later than I want to. So hopefully, once we get there, we'll be able to do some work and bring you, if nothing else, at least the Open Division Championships from Rosecroft Raceway. So we'll pay that by ear and see what happens. That's Friday, May 4th at the 2018 Regional Golden Gloves at Rosecroft Raceway in Fort Washington, Maryland. We talked about this on Friday, May 11th. The number of boxers will be in action in the city of Philadelphia. We have two boxers at one location, two boxers in another location. Now, at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia, we have a Showtime Showbox card, and at least one of our boxers will be on the show, and that's Glenn DeZern. Glenn DeZern Jr. will be in the co-feature bout out of Baltimore, Maryland. Once again, he'll compete in his first scheduled 10-round contest against Joshua Don't Blink Greer of Chicago, Illinois. As we said before, DeZern is 9-1-1, 6 KOs, looking to bounce back from his first pro loss, which was an 8-round unanimous decision to Jesse Angel Hernandez on November 11th in Uniondale, Long Island, New York. This will be DeZern's third TV contest. He's had a win, a draw, and a loss. Actually, it would be his third. That's a week third because one of the ones was not the Angel Hernandez fight was not on TV. So a win and a loss on TV, winning a draw on TV, I should say. All right. So winning a draw on TV for Glenn DeZern. This last bout against Hernandez was down on television. Meanwhile, Greer is 16-1-1, 8 KOs, riding a 13-bout winning streak after suffering his only pro loss. And this includes his last outing, which was a third-round KO over Basilio Nieves on February 24th in Phoenix, Arizona. Now, one of the bouts that's right now on the undercard could be moved to television. I think a lot of people are trying to get this bout on television. We've talked about it before. That's Baltimore super flyweight Tarashia Lady Tiger Douglas being a contest against Helen Iron Lady Joseph, New Haven, Connecticut, by way of Nigeria. Douglas is 13-1, 6 KOs. Last fall, November 4th, and scored an 8-round TKO over Crystal Hoy in Ashburn, Virginia. Joseph is 15-3-1. Again, she has 10 knockouts, and she scored 3 straight second-round knockouts in her last 3 contests. Now, I've talked to a lot of folks who really want to see this bout on the Showbox telecast. Douglas is one of the best young female boxers in the country. There's no question about that. And she faces a formidable foe in Helen Joseph. So I would love to see this bout on television. I think I'll do a lot for women's boxing, and it needs to be on TV. No question about that. So that's Friday, May 11th at the 2300 Arena in Philadelphia. Meanwhile, at the Sugar House Casino in Philadelphia, this will be a non-televised card. Michael the Professor Fox in the main event. He'll be in an 8-round contest against Anthony Mercado of Arecibo, Puerto Rico. Fox is undefeated, 16-0, 4 KOs. Coming off an 8-round unanimous decision over Ricardo Garcia on February 13th in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Meanwhile, Mercado's 11-3, 10 KOs, broke a 3-bout losing streak, stopping previously undefeated Tyrone Crawley Jr. in the 3rd round, March 2nd at the Sugar House Casino. And also, Owings Mills, Maryland heavyweight Kobe Madison makes a quick return in a 6-round bout against Michael Polite Coffey of Brooklyn, New York. Madison 6-0-2, 4 KOs, looks to improve after battling Guillermo Del Rio in a 6-round majority draw back on April 6th at the 2300 Arena. So Coffey, after 2 bouts, is jumping to the 6-round class, and he comes off a 4-round unanimous decision over Nicoy Clark on February 13th in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Coffey's 2-0. 1 KO. So those are the bouts in Philadelphia. Both of them happening on Friday, May 11th. Also on Friday, May 11th, there's an amateur boxing card at Baltimore Boxing Promotion, and it'll be at Michael's 8th Avenue in Glen Burnie, Maryland, which, by the way, this coming Sunday will have the Maryland Boxing Hall of Fame this coming Sunday, April 29th, at Maryland, at Michael's 8th Avenue, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. We talked about the Maryland Boxing Hall of Fame a few weeks ago. But Michael's 8th Avenue, May 11th, amateur boxing card, benefit the Lighthouse Homeless Shelter. So that's Friday, May 11th. We'll give you more details on who's on that card coming up a little bit later on. Meanwhile, Friday through Sunday, May 11th through 13th, back at Rosecroft Raceway in Fort Washington, Maryland, will be the 2018 Junior Olympic Tournament for the PVA, Potomac Valley Association, and that'll be held all 3 days, Friday through Sunday, May 11th through the 13th. That's at Rosecroft Raceway. Then on Saturday, May the 12th, we'll have our first Beltway boxing card in the area for 2018. It'll be promoted by TAC Promotions, and it'll take place in a brand new location for us, the Dulles Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. The Dulles Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. The card is scheduled to have on Patrick Harris, 12-0, 7 KOs, super lightweight out of Hyattsville, Maryland. Also, DC welterweights, Kareem Martin, Remo out of DC, 9-2, 3 KOs, as well as Genghis Khan Tazabike returns quickly. As I said, he's 6-0, 2 KOs. Also, the return of District Heights, Maryland super featherweight Ronaldo Misunderstood Gaines will be on the card. He's 8-2, 2 KOs. Also, Arlington, Virginia super middleweight Jovan Davis will be on the show. He's making a return. He had not fought since he made his pro debut back in 2016. Davis is 1-0, 1 KOs. That's on Saturday, May 12th from the Dulles Sportsplex in Sterling, Virginia. As soon as we find Wi-Fi, we hope to have live coverage of that card as well. Also on Saturday, May 12th, at Madison Square Garden in New York City, Landover, Maryland featherweight Kevin K-Smooth Rivers Jr. will be on a card in a 6-round bout against an opponent to be determined. It'll be a while since Rivers came back after a bout in California last year. Rivers is 14-1, 10 KOs, so he makes a return. And on Saturday, May 12th, at the Powell Center in Hockinson, Delaware, Washington, D.C. lightweight Deontay Mr. Untouchable Burts is 2-0, 1 KO. He'll be in a 4-round bout against an opponent named later. Burts is trained by Hall of Famer and 3-time world champion Mark Too Sharp Johnson. And he won his bout in North Carolina last time out back in early part of this month. So Deontay Burts is back in May. Then we have the big card of the month. And it's a card that we talked about this past week on Saturday, May 19th at the MGM National Harbor Casino in Oxon Hill, Maryland. It'll be WBC featherweight champion Mr. Gary Russell Jr., who will defend his title against the undefeated number one contender, Joseph Diaz Jr. of Downey, California. He's 26-0, 14 KOs. Russell is 28-1, 17 KOs, and 12-round contest. That'll be shown on Showtime. Now, earlier this week, they had a big press conference to officially announce this bout. Both men very, very confident. You can see their quotes on my blog, Boxing Along the Beltway, and .blogspot.com. And this should be a very good bout. There's a lot of question marks in this one. Of course, Russell's inactivity. This is only his 4th bout in 4 years. His first bout in it'll be 1 year almost to the day that Russell fought his last bout, which was back at the MGM National Harbor, and when he defeated Oscar Escandón. So this is a big bout. Both guys, of course, former Olympian, both guys are Olympians, I should say. Russell was Olympian in 2008. Diaz in 2012, and I heard the moderator for the conference, Ray Flores, run down the team for 2012 Olympic team, which it's turned out not to be a bad team. You're looking at Errol Spence, you're looking at Roche Warren, Terrell Gausha. I mean, that was a pretty good team, and Jojo Diaz is a part of that as well. And he's done very, very well in his career so far. So this bout could be very interesting. I mean, again, I don't know if Diaz can keep up to the speed of Gary Russell Jr. It could be very, very interesting, but I just think that Russell will find a way to really get things done in this situation. So that's May 19th, MGM National Harbor Casino, Oxon Hill, Maryland. We'll talk more about that as we go on. Your tickets are available at mgm.nationalharbor.com. I'm sorry, mgmnationalharbor.com. That's what it is. Go to mgmnationalharbor.com. There's a link on my blog as well. You can go to the website. But I would not wait to try to find tickets at the door for this one. This one could be a good sellout. Diaz has a good crowd that travels, and I think this time Russell's crowd is really going to show out, as they did last time when he fought Escandone, and this could be a very good night. And of course, there's a split double header for Showtime, because also on that night from Toronto, the Air Canada Center in Toronto, Adonis Stevenson will defend his WBC light heavyweight champion against former world super middleweight champion Badou Jack. So that's a good night of boxing. Should be a very good night of boxing all the way around. And I'm not sure whether Russell will be first or last in that situation, but we'll see what happens. But that's Saturday, May 19th from the MGM National Harbor Casino in Oxon Hill, Maryland. Also scheduled to be on that card, both Russell's brothers, Antonio, who's 10-0, 8 KOs, and Antoine, 5-0, 5 KOs, just fought. They'll both be on the card, along with Clinton, Maryland's Kobe the Soldier Breedy, who's 10-0, 4 KOs. He's scheduled to be in an 8-round bout. His first 8-rounder on this card. Should be very interesting to see what happens. That's Saturday, May 19th, once again from the MGM National Harbor Casino in Oxon Hill, Maryland. Also on Saturday, May 19th, from the Meadows Racetrack and Casino in Washington, Pennsylvania, DC welterweight Jonathan Bad Badger Baxter will be in an 8-round contest, his first 8-round contest. He takes on the veteran Steve Upshur Chambers of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Baxter's 9-1, 8 KOs. I believe he last fought at the Merrick Recreation Center in D.C., that last card there. Upshur Chambers, just a veteran, 25, 5-1, 6 KOs. Kind of been long in the tooth lately, so we'll see what happens there. But I believe he's still winning. So, and see what happens. That's on Saturday, May 19th from the Meadows Racetrack Casino in Washington, Pennsylvania. Then on Saturday, May 25th for the Music Hall Arena in Cincinnati, Ohio. Now, I believe, and this is just my thinking as I looked at it from BoxRec. BoxRec had a guy on the card who was listed on this card from Music Hall Arena in Cincinnati, Ohio, named Tariq Irby, E-R-B-Y. And they said he's making pro debut. I think it was Tariq IGB Irby out of D.C., 4-0, 2 KOs. He'll take on Emmanuel Roman of Bayamon, Puerto Rico in a 4-round bout on this card on Saturday, May 25th. D.C. welterweight Keyshawn Williams will be on the card. He's 1-1, 1 KO. He'll battle Adrian Martinez of Tijuana, Mexico, 0-1, and that bout is scheduled for 4 rounds. So that is the card, and that is the month of May for the Beltway, and we'll see what happens as we continue throughout this month. As we head into May, it should be a lot of fun this particular time around, so we'll see what happens. Finally, our tribute for this week. Now, last week, as you know, I did a tribute to my all-time favorite wrestler, Bruno Sammartino, who passed away last week. Now, on the very same day that Sammartino passed away, and I just found this after we'd done the podcast that week, another one of my favorites, and this guy was a well-known wrestler in the South, primarily, and I'll explain in a moment. But he's a guy who is known as Number One, Paul Jones. Now, he got that Number One moniker a little bit late in his career. But Paul Jones was an outstanding wrestler, again, primarily in the South. A lot of people knew about him in the 70s when he wrestled in Florida. He won the TV title and threw the TV title into the river. Don't ask me why, he just did. But I think at one point he was the Florida heavyweight champion and the Florida TV champion, and he couldn't hold both belts, so he threw one in the river. And a lot of people have copied that over the year. I remember Dick Slater did it in the Mid-South territory. Dick Slater did the same thing when he won the Mid-South heavyweight championship and the TV title. He threw the TV title into the river. But he was a champion in Florida. He was a champion in Georgia. But really, in the Mid-Atlantic territory, that's where Paul Jones was his most famous. And he had started off as a good guy. He was a face, as they call it. He was a good guy. And he was very talented, won the Mid-Atlantic Championship. He was the Tony Gurria of the Mid-Atlantic area. He is a multi-time NWA World Tag Team and Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Champion. He teamed with people like Wahoo McDaniel. I believe he teamed with I believe he teamed with Blackjack Mulligan. I'm not sure, but definitely teamed with Wahoo McDaniel. They were very successful. They won the world title. But in 1978, I'll never forget this, even though I didn't see it firsthand, and I only learned about this really through the magazines, but I'll never forget it. He'd also started a tag team with a young wrestler at that time by the name of Rick Steamboat. And in 1978, in Charlotte, North Carolina, they gone on and won the World Tag Team Championship. They won the Mid-Atlantic Tag Team Championship. It was really the veteran Jones mentoring the young Steamboat, that classic type of tag team there. But in 1978, in a two-ring battle royal, and the object of the two-ring battle royal, the winner of the first ring would take on the winner of the second ring, and the two would meet, and they decided to wrestle. The winner would get the prize money, or they could split the prize money. Well, on this particular night in Charlotte, North Carolina, Paul Jones won one ring, and Rick Steamboat won the other. And they came to the championship, and Steamboat, of course, being Jones's tag team partner and great friend, said, "Hey, let's split the money right here." But Jones shocked everybody that night by saying, "No, let's wrestle for it." And he proceeded to brutally destroy Rick Steamboat that night and won the championship and won the money, I should say. And I'll never forget, this was plastered all over the wrestling magazines. The Wrestler had a headline saying Paul Jones' shocking betrayal of Rick Steamboat. Pro Wrestling Illustrated had just started at that time, and I think this was their second issue. I'll never forget, it was the second issue, and they had an interview with Paul Jones, press conference interview with Paul Jones, explaining why he did what he did. And he became a major league heel at that time for about, I'd say, 6 years or so. He left Mid-Atlantic for a little while, came back, and he became a face again. He had ended up teaming with Mass Superstar, Bill Eadie, who we know as Bill Eadie, also who's known as Acts of Demolition. Great guy. I had a chance to meet him a few years ago in 2011 at the NWA Legends Fan Fest. Great guy. He's a former teacher, so he had a lot of things in common at that time. So they became a face again. They became world champions again. I believe Paul Jones, Mass Superstar, did win a championship again. And then around 1987 or so, Jones started going back into the heel camp again. And he was a great heel. He was a great face, but he was a great heel. And that's about the time I started watching NWA wrestling. And he made a seamless transition from wrestler to manager. He was in his last years. He had a feud with Jack Briscoe at that time, former world champion Jack Briscoe. And he ended up becoming a manager. He managed Dory Funk Jr. He managed the Assassins at that time. And then when he became a full-scale manager, he had one of the biggest and indeed one of the longest feuds, maybe in the history of wrestling, when Paul Jones feuded with Jimmy the Boogie Wingman Valiant. This feud had everything. I mean, almost literally, when you think about it. It had lose-leave town matches, and Valiant would lose those matches and come back as Charlie Brown from out of town. By the time the first Starrcade came out, he was Charlie Brown. Valiant had to leave the territory for, I think it was a month or so. Had loser loses his hair matches. I think by that time, another one of Valiant's friends, Pistol Pez Watley, the late Pistol Pez Watley, turned on Valiant, one of the strangest turns you ever want to see in your life. Really all because Valiant was on an interview with Pez, and Valiant just called Pez the greatest black athlete in the world, and Watley got mad and beat him up. But anyway, that was very strange. But Pez became Shaska Watley, and he had cut part of Jones's hair, his ponytail. And he came back, and Jones managed Shaska. Shaska ended up losing his hair at one match during the Great American Bash that year in '86, and then Jones would lose his hair later in '86, and then finally Valiant would lose his hair in '86 later in the Bash, and then Jones lose his hair by the time Starrcade came around in '87. But Jones wasn't the best manager in the world because he had a tough time sometimes talking out of a paper bag. His promos weren't all that great. He was one of those managers that really was very fortunate to have other wrestlers who could talk. So he managed guys like Ravishing Rick Rude, and another guy who turned on Valiant, Manny Fernandez, the Raging Bull. And they could talk a little bit, although Fernandez was a little bit shaky at time too. But Rude was a good promo guy. So Jones did not have to talk a lot during his promos. He said, "Let me tell you something." He talked. I mean, his best promos came when he was directly addressing Jimmy Valiant. That's when his best promos came. So he managed Rude and Fernandez all the way to the NWA World Tag Team title. They defeated the Rock and Roll Express. And he also managed the Powers of Pain, Warlord and Barbarian. And they had a memorable feud with Ivan and Nikita Koloff. No, I'm sorry. No, that's not right. It was with the Road Warriors. Excuse me. It was the Road Warriors. Hawkeye Adam with the Road Warriors. He had a memorable feud with them. Now, Jones did manage Ivan Koloff. Not Nikita, but he managed Ivan Koloff for a little while. And then Paul turned on Ivan Koloff, and that was the last big feud Paul Jones had before he retired. Well, both of them retired, really, both before Paul Jones retired. But he was a very big-time performer in the South, definitely loved by a lot of people, and he passed the very same day Bruno Sammartino did. It was a tough loss. He was, I believe, 75 years old, and he was a great wrestler as well, no question about that. So it was a tough week for wrestling fans. I mean, I'm still trying to get over the loss of Bruno Sammartino. Kudos to the WWE. They put together a very nice tribute to Bruno during, I believe, both Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live, but definitely during Monday Night Raw. And they had a nice documentary they put on their network about Bruno as well. Wonderful documentary. And they do have a whole collection devoted to Bruno Sammartino. So, it was a tough loss, and then losing Jones behind that, who was a very, very famous wrestler as well, was tough. No question about that. So it was a tough way to go. But again, rest in peace. Number one, Paul Jones. But that would do it here for another edition of Beltway Boxing News and Notes. Remember, Boxing on Beltway Boxing News and Notes brought to you by Real Time Pain Relief. Go to freepainoffer.com. Buy $10 worth of Real Time Pain Relief. You get a free $10 tube of Real Time Pain Relief. Rub it on. The pain is gone in real time. And buy DeborahSpears.com. Don't forget to buy that pendant, boxing glove pendant. And your first purchase on DeborahSpears.com is 20% off plus free shipping. That's DEBRA Spears.com. I'm Gary Digital Williams. Thanks for joining me, everybody. And always remember to keep supporting the best boxing in the world. The boxing along the Beltway. Thanks for listening. Take care.